Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Business Talks. I am your host, Chawanne Burns. In today's episode, we are going to discuss Elon Musk and Donald Trump. There was, you could call it an interview, but it was basically a casual conversation about Trump's campaign and what he's expecting to do once he's elected. There were talks about the economy, a 2-hour long talk, and they literally broke the internet. The stream didn't go live for quite some time because they were having trouble on XN actually broadcasting the stream. I don't know. Elon Musk mentioned that their servers was hacked and they was trying to get things up and running. They even proposed recording the live broadcast and replatforming it, but anyway, it went really smooth. They just got a late start. Anywho, the news media is wild and frantic. Kamala Harris is frantic about this whole talk with Elon Musk. I don't know why they're frantic. I mean, she's willing to do the press conference, talk to whoever she wants to. I'm pretty sure she's been invited to different platforms, but she's scared. I believe she's scared. I think she's gonna put her foot in her mouth and make herself look kind of silly because she really doesn't have a platform and a good agenda to stand on. And we know if these questions are not scripted, Kamala Harris doesn't do well just, responding to questions such as that her team hasn't looked at it and she doesn't know the actual response. Anywho, so the news media went wild. And so we're going to talk about that. And we're also going to talk about Chief Lacey of Dalton, Illinois. He was indicted. This is a federal indictment case from a prior bankruptcy that he filed back in 2019. And we have some information in regards to that. So you guys stay tuned. We are going to talk about both of those subjects on another episode of Business Talks.
Something like this. Looks a little bit like I can't miss. Hey, this is what you call a bap. What? This is what you call a bap. Looks a little something like this. Looks a little bit like I can't miss. Hey, this is what you call a bap. What? This is what you call a bap.
So you guys put in the chat, let me know where you're viewing from. Please put in the chat, let me know where you're viewing from. It's always great to see everyone here. Let's see, we have Kennard the DJ. What is good? Chawanne's what is good? Lacey gonna end up working at Popeye's Chicken and Biscuit with his Jive BBL. Kennard with his BBL. Yeah, yeah. So I don't think it's a good look for Dalton officials. I would say Tiffany Henyard's camp. It's only a matter of time that we will see Tiffany Henyard being indicted for some crazy charges. It's so funny. Chief Lacey, they went back to this old bankruptcy that he filed in 2019. That was over 5 years ago. And they went back to that old bankruptcy and started looking into what he's been doing. And they're trying to get, something over him, probably so he could turn on Tiffany. I wouldn't be surprised. This is how the FBI work. This is how the Department of Justice work. Hey, you want this lenient charge? We're going to do X, Y, and Z. Anyway, Posh Petals is in the building. Here from DC, they are not going to let Trump win. They are pulling out all the stops. Yes, they are pulling out all the stops. It's so crazy how mainstream media, you're going crazy over something that happened on a platform, a social media platform. Why are you going crazy about that? Anyway, Noble Young is in the building. What is good, Noble? It's always great to see you. Gary Williams, blessing Chawanne and everybody from LA, California. Thank you for tuning in. Rihanna is in the building. D Dave, thank you for tuning in. She don't even have common sense. And I'm assuming you're speaking about Kamala Harris. No, she doesn't have common sense. She doesn't. Yesterday, she doesn't have. Remember, I was telling you she doesn't have any originality. No original bone, genuine bone in her body. Okay, she has to steal from somebody else's campaign in their talking points. To me, it doesn't make any sense. Posh Petal is saying she doesn't want to be interviewed because she is promising to do what she can do now and won't. Hello, Kamala. You're in office now. Why can't you and Joe Biden put some executive orders? You put all these other executive orders for the LGBTQ plus IA community. Why can't you put some executive orders for the border bill, for the economy, things that you could do now to, lead the path, but you're refusing to do that. Rihanna is tuning in from Pensacola. D. Dave is checking in from Austin. Kimmy Joe is from Indiana. Thank you for tuning in. Styles by Miss Bobby from Baltimore. Shell Ingram, hello to you. We have Maine Thomas from Dalton, Illinois. Robbie from Eastern Kentucky. Kimmy Joe saying Kamala doesn't want to be interviewed because she will be exposed for a socialist that she is and a communist. I believe she's borderline communism. I mean, all the things that she speaks about, hey, everybody needs a helping hand and they need to end up in the same place. No, that sounds like communism. Sounds like communism. I worked hard for whatever I get, and then the guy down the street doesn't work hard for what he got, but he's in the same spot. I would be mad as hell because he's not going to treat it as the same. He's not. Some people believe in reparations and stuff like that, which I do. There should be some form of reparations. I just don't like spending my time on that. But when we're talking about you want to end up in the same spot, that just sounds like crazy talk to me. No, that doesn't make any sense. I want to be Michael Jordan. I want to be worth $1 billion. And I haven't played not one basketball tournament. Like that doesn't make any sense. I want to be like Elon Musk, and I haven't launched one space center. It doesn't make any sense. Cheryl Ingram, exactly. Cheryl Ingram is tuning in from the DMV. Mark Tim is on X. Thank you for tuning in. And Plants for Life, good day to you. You guys, we are going to get started. Our first thing I want to talk about is, of course, Elon Musk and what is going on Twitter and what's been said about this whole interview. Elon Musk and Donald Trump, they literally broke the internet. They're saying that they already received 1 billion views from this 2-hour-long conversation. And I tuned in for about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour. And it was a very good conversation. To me, I thought Donald Trump, he talked about the points that he wanted to talk about. And everybody knows Donald Trump. He's not a politician. You have to point him in the direction you want him to talk about. Sometimes he does get off the beaten path and start talking about, or he starts regurgitating the same information. And this is what the media honed into. Oh, he was talking about the same point over and over again. Well, he was trying to make a point. Let me just share this with you. I'm going to share this tab with you, and this is from X. Only bad headlines. Only bad headlines from the legacy media about Elon's Trump interview. They hate Elon for eating their lunch and Trump for having a bigger reach than ever. Without them, add the editors on the deep state payroll, it all makes sense. The problem, now everyone wants to listen. Okay, this is somebody compiled just the headlines of what they're saying about this interview. Trump rambles, slurs his way through Elon Musk's interview. And if you would have listened to it, he wasn't slurring his words. He was a matter of fact. He wasn't rambling, really. He started talking on a point, and I think he got so, passionate about it. He kept on talking about it. Kamala Harris' campaign criticized Trump for serving self-obsessed rich guys after interview with Elon Musk. I don't know what you're saying, Kamala. You got rich people on your team. You act like Elon Musk is the only rich guy that's donating to a campaign. Then you sound ridiculous. Donald Trump's lists during the Elon Musk interview raises questions. He wasn't lisping. He sounded just like Donald Trump. I just don't understand why they putting these points out. So Donald chatted with Elon, and here's the future as they see it. Losers win, incompetence rules. That wasn't what they were talking about. Musk Trump talk on X after glitchy start, 2-hour ramble. Trump Musk interview, a surprisingly dull meeting of two planet-sized egos. A familiar vitriol of Musk and enabler. Key takeaways from Trump's interview. One thing I could credit Musk for, he did give praise to Donald Trump, but he also actually kind of corrected Donald Trump talking about global warming. And he said the CO2, he has some figures about the CO2. And he's told Donald Trump, no, this is not quite correct. CO2, if we get over 500 parts per million or up to 1,000 parts per million of this particular, or I think it was CO2, we will have a problem. It will be hard for us to breathe, blah, blah, blah. So he said we add about 2 parts per million a year into the atmosphere. Is that an existential threat? That's where that is coming from. So I don't think Trump and Elon, of course, it wasn't a hostile interview. It was just a casual conversation where Elon Musk would ask the question and even wasn't really a ask. He was like, oh, give me your thoughts on such and such on this, and give me your thoughts on the economy. It was such a casual conversation. Donald Trump even started to talk about bacon, the price of bacon. You know, Kamala Harris, like I said, she can't have these casual conversations. Remember, just the other day, she had a conversation with Angela Rye, and Angela Rye asked her who was her favorite artist that is living, favorite rap artist that is living. And I guess Kamala doesn't know who's living and who's dead in rap artists because she doesn't listen to rap. There's nothing wrong with saying, oh, I'm not in the know now. I used to listen to it back in the day. But back in the day, my favorite artist was such and such and such and such. She even lied and said she listened to Tupac. Tupac, we know he's dead, and he did not get his career started until 1991, 1992, or nobody really knew about him. But Kamala Harris claimed that she listened to Tupac in college, and he wasn't even around then. So what are you talking about? So you part of the underground scene? Come on now. Let's be real. But these are casual conversations that they had, and these are articles saying really, really mean things about the interview. Okay, you guys be a judge. I have a little snippet about the interview. Okay, you tell me your point of view. This is a little snippet about a minute and 47 seconds. It says Elon Musk calls on Trump to start a government efficiency commission and says he would like to help. This has to happen. Must I think it would be a would be great to have a government efficiency commission that ensures that the taxpayer money taxpayers taxpayers money, hard-earned money, is spent in a good way. I'd be happy to help out on such a commission. I love it. Well, you're the greatest cutter. Okay.
To help out on such a commission.
I'd love it.
I mean, if so, I think it would be great to just have a government efficiency commission that takes a look at these things and just ensures that the taxpayer money, the taxpayers' hard-earned money, is spent in a good way. I'd be happy to help out on such a commission.
I'd love
if
it.
it were formed.
Well, you're the greatest cutter. I mean, I look at what you do. You walk in and you just say, "You want to quit?" They go on
Yeah.
strike. I won't mention the name of the company, but they go on strike, and you say, "That's okay. You're all gone. You're all gone." So every one of you is gone, and you are the greatest. You would be very good. Oh, you would love it. But if you look at Argentina.
Well, I'd be happy to
Yeah,
help
by the way,
out.
congratulations. I
Yeah.
just looked at the number of people that are listening to you and I chat. We'll call it a chat. But
Yeah.
congratulations. This is very good. I mean, it's great. And you're an interesting character. The new head of a place called Argentina, and he's a big,
Malay's awesome.
he's great. And
Yeah.
he's a big MAGA fan, that he ran on MAGA. And he took it to an extreme too. He ran on MAGA, and I hear he's doing really a terrific job. It's called Make Argentina Great Again. It worked out perfectly. He came in, he bought a lot of hats, he brought everything, but he's doing a big job. He really cut. And I'm hearing
Yeah.
they're starting to do pretty well. Inflation's getting down. They had like
Yes,
2,000%. They had inflation like not normal inflation. They had the real deal. But we're going to
Yeah.
have that pretty soon. I think we
Yeah.
have the worst inflation we've had in 100 years. They say it's 48 years. I don't believe it. I think we have the worst. They
Yeah.
don't include a lot of the items that should be included.
Yeah.
So that was the whole talk with Elon Musk and Donald Trump, and they were actually talking about government efficiency. This leads me to my next subject. Okay, so they got a lot of backlash. The liberal media didn't like this whole talk. They didn't like this whole talk because they felt as if Elon Musk and Donald Trump was getting too much attention. Some liberal media said they were spreading misinformation. I'm not for sure if I'm not for sure if Kamala Harris is actually going to go on X, but Elon Musk did invite her to come on X and have something like an open dialogue with him, and she declined. She declined the offer. Let me just get to some of your chats before I get on to my next subject. Cannon and Chase, you guys are being too loud. Randy Smith is saying, well, remember there was a bipartisan border bill, but your great cult leader encouraged the Republicans to kill the bill because he didn't want Biden to get credit for the bill. Factual. No, actually, they killed the bill because it has some provisions in there where it allow 2,000 immigrants a day in that bill. And that's why that bill was killed. It wasn't killed because of Donald Trump. this is what's really baffling to me. People are blaming Donald Trump like he's over the puppet strings of Republicans. There's a chance that Donald Trump would not be in office. So why would they risk their careers on what Donald Trump is saying? No, Republicans did not want 2,000 immigrants. This is why the bill didn't pass. They didn't want 2,000 immigrants coming in daily. That's one of the provisions that was in that bill. And also, hey, we got this border bill. Okay, then another bill that was attached to that, we want to give more money to Ukraine. And most Republicans did not agree to that. You know, you had uniparty Republicans wanting to seal the deal, but no, we're not going to agree to the 2,000 immigrants a day and automatically give asylum or American citizenship to the immigrants that's already illegally crossed our borders. That was another provision in the bill. So stop saying crazy nonsense, Randy. Randy, you need to really do your research when we're talking about that. It's nothing to do with Donald Trump. Donald Trump, you can't blame Donald Trump between the time he left office was in 2020 to now. We have to blame Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Those are the people in their office and Congress. We could say Republican Congress, yeah, but we can't attach Donald Trump's name to that. We just can't do that. Lexi, what is good? Billy Brooks, Trump 2024. Good Tuesday afternoon, folks. Champion, thank you for tuning in. Plants for Life saying stop eating beef and CO2 levels will decrease. Actually, car emissions have the most emissions. I'm saying that based off my knowledge. I used to be an environmental engineer, and CO2 emissions is really directly the most emissions is from cars. That CO2 emissions that's where most of the CO2 emissions come from. Then we could say farming, but I don't know if that's the main contributor. Farming, and then we could say probably power plants, something like that. But yeah, farming is the main contributor to farming is not the main contributor. It's actually gas emissions from locomotive. Anyway, love USA. I used to do the greenhouse gas report for our the plant that I used to work at before I get onto the other subject. But I used to do the greenhouse gas report for our actual plant, the plant that I used to work at. And since I had to do that report, I always would get a report on the total greenhouse gas emissions by, classification. Gas, power plants, locomotive, farming, and one of the biggest contributors was cars to CO2 emissions. It has nothing to do with you eating pork or beef. I mean, that is a contributor, but that's from fertilization, but that's not really the contributor, the main contributor. Anyway, Sheriff of YouTube, calm down, girl. Tupac was around in 1980s. Yeah, but he wasn't mainstream. Nobody knew about Tupac. Nobody knew about Tupac in the 80s. In the 80s, no, only people we knew about in the 80s was LL Cool J. Tupac his first album, I think it dropped in 1991. Actually. 1993 was his first album. In 1991, I remember just hearing 1991. He was about 20. And it was a song that I think it was called Tupacalypse Now. I remember that song. But that came out in 1991. So in the 80s, I think Kamala, she probably graduated in 86 from college. She's 5 years shy. She 5 years shy from Kamala's college career. And this is all public information. She graduated from, like I said, she graduated in 1986 from Howard University. So was she in, well, maybe she was in law school, maybe. But she graduated law school in 1989. That's still 2 years prior from Tupac. Anyway, I don't want to spend my time proving you guys, oh, she didn't listen to Tupac. She didn't listen to Tupac. Maybe when she was after her college career. That's more believable. Bonita, I don't trust Elon Musk. He started AI and making robots to replace people. I saw something on here in my Monique channel that will give you a pause to be concerned. But, I don't know if you saw that interview with Elon Musk. Elon Musk said we need to pause on AI. I think he's saying AI will be one of those placers that we spending a lot of money on and time and effort to bring them up to standards, but eventually the machine is going to be smarter than us. I don't know if you ever seen the iRobot, but he's talking about that in particular. iRobot with Will Smith. If you guys haven't seen that, it's a crazy movie, but it's basically artificial intelligence really taking over, like the Terminator. So he talked about how we need to take a pause on AI. Oh, he was on MTV. See, I don't know. MTV, but we're talking about the 80s. Look, I grew up in the 80s. MTV wasn't popular in the 80s, dude. It was popular in the 90s. MTV came on the scene in early 80s. Actually, we could say you were still doing that when you call in to the radio. When you call on the show and you tell them, you spend like 25 cents and you tell them what song you want to hear and they show the video. That's what's popular. I don't think it was, but I don't know. I didn't have cable. So maybe because I didn't have cable, I'm thinking wrong. Anyway, Kimmy Joe saying Randy Smith, if that was actually true, then Trump wouldn't be running for president. He has a great life without all this mess. Okay. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you for the super chat. Love USA for the $10 super chat. I will vote for Trump 2024 for best economy, secure border, no illegal immigration, and no WW3, period. Kamala Harris is a fraud. She has not done jack beep in 4 years. She even stole Trump's best policy. Yeah, the no tax tip. She is a scam. Kamala Harris is a copycat. That is so true. Okay, so I'll let you guys talk it over in the chat. I'm not going to read all this. Anyway, back to this conversation with Elon Musk and Donald Trump. What Donald Trump said about Elon Musk cutting folks for going on strike. Okay. Elon Musk, and I don't know if you guys remember this. I don't know. I think they have a union at Tesla now. But Elon Musk cut his workers because they wanted to go on strike. I don't know if that was Tesla or Twitter. I'm not for sure which one it was, but I think it was Tesla. And they was trying to formulate a union. it actually eventually formed because this is the United States of America. But since Elon Musk, he cut that staff, Donald Trump mentioned that, it received some backlash about that. Now the UAW is considering, or not even considering, they hit Trump and Musk with a federal labor charges over effort to intimidate workers. I don't know why they named Trump in it because he doesn't have a automotive company, but this all came from what Trump said and what Donald and Elon Musk was talking about during this conversation yesterday. Okay. It says the United Auto Workers announced Tuesday that it filed federal labor charges against Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump and billionaire Elon Musk after the former president heaped praised on world's richest man for firing striking workers. During the rambling and lied-filled conversation on X, the social media platform owned by Musk, Trump hailed the Tesla CEO as the greatest cutter. Okay, this conversation was basically extended from the government spending. Okay, government spending. Elon Musk said, I think there should be some type of, commissioner, some oversight committee to ensure that the taxpayers' money is not being spent wastefully. And then they talked about bringing a new government entity to oversight government spending. And then Trump was praising him. Yeah, I've seen you before in action. You know how to trim the fat, basically. I don't think nothing was wrong with that, but Sean Fain said this is wrong. The UAW argued Tuesday that Trump and Musk's remarks during the conversation, which was viewed live more than 1 million people, amounted to illegal attempts to threaten and intimidate workers who stand up for themselves by engaging to protected, concerted activities such as strikes. Is this a frivolous lawsuit, you guys? I think it's frivolous because they were just having a conversation saying, hey, we need oversight in the government about taxpayers' money. Okay, what I did in my own corporation, which is a private corporation, you don't have anything to do with that. What really baffles me about the UAW, have no, I'm not going to eat popcorn online. Are you done with your work? No, you're not. Don't tell a fib. No, you need to do your reading, Chase. Cannon, you go upstairs. What I was getting at, the UAW they co-signed for or endorsed Kamala Harris campaign. They endorsed Kamala Harris campaign, and we know Biden Harris, they initiated that Bidenomics, the new green energy deal. That policy is very detrimental to the UAW. It's detrimental to the auto industry. So why in the world would they endorse Kamala Harris? Does that make any sense? I don't see why would they do that. And right now we have Chrysler is they're laying off 2,700 workers at one of their plants. They're cutting down shifts at the other plant next door. So what are we talking about? They sending out buyouts to people. This is because of the new green energy deal. Everything has a cause and effect. Yeah, it sounds good. We don't want to decrease CO2 emissions, and we want to be smart about it. But the aggressiveness of what we want to do by cutting CO2 emissions. It's not practical. You're going to just have a lot of people out of work or depending on energy from another foreign country, which doesn't make any sense. Anyway, so Sean Fain and the UAW president said in a statement Tuesday, when we say Donald Trump is a scab, this is what we mean. When we say Donald Trump stands against everything our union stands for, this is what we mean. Donald Trump will always side against working, standing up for themselves. I don't think so. I don't think he's siding with that. That's not what his point is. I think he likes, don't be wasteful. You're wasting money. And why would you be wasteful? And you could decrease the spending. This is what he's talking about. Now, if I own the company, I just don't want to be giving people jobs. Of course, I want to increase my profit margin. That's how these billionaires become billionaires. I mean, come on now. If you had a $1 billion company, you ain't just gonna be hiring everybody. You gonna end up like Dalton, Illinois, and you got $5.6 million or $3.6 million in debt. You're not going to do that. So you think about trimming the fat. Okay, so, and then they mentioned in this article that Elon Musk is contributing $45 million a month, which is wrong. This article is wrong. Elon Musk is not contributing $45 million a month. He just decided to contribute one-time donation of $45 million. And then both the Trump and Musk want working class people to sit down and shut up, and they laugh about it openly. That's not what they was talking about. So very misleading. And I was on the X for that particular portion, and that's not what they were talking about. They were specifically talking about government spending, and Donald Trump was basically giving him praise. Hey, yeah, I know you know how to trim fat because you did it at your own company. That's basically what he said. He wasn't saying, oh, you better not, if you go on strike, I'm going to fire you. No, we knew we didn't need all these people anyway, so we're going to fire your ass. That's what happened. Anyway, so that's some of the backlash from this record-breaking interview. That's some of the backlash. And if we could see, at one point, it peaked at 1.3 million viewers in the audience. So they had, a billion people viewing or listening to the stream. That's really something to say. And mainstream media, they don't hold that kind of regard or that pull with regular people. They just couldn't. They wouldn't have been able to do that. Okay, so that's it. That's all I'm going to say about that. Of course, mainstream media was saying something about he lied 20 times. Don't know about that. And they never, and this was CNN, they never mentioned what he lied about. I don't know. If you're saying this guy lied 21 times during this conversation or interview, tell me the 20 lies he said. Don't just say, oh, he lied 20 times. Okay, point it out. Breitbart News is saying media failed to interview Kamala Harris for 22 straight days after joining the race. So people are calling on Kamala to do an interview. There was also a report, California sheriff featured in Kamala Harris campaign ad decries use of image. And he says, I am not a supporter of her. Tulare County Sheriff Mike Brodé said, do not do that on my blinds. Go out there, Chase. Go out there. Mike Brodé said Harris' political ad featured him in false advertisement. and they were saying that he's not a supporter. I think he's asking him to be taken off the campaign. Okay. Another thing about, just before I get to us talking about Dalton, Illinois, Tariq Nasheed, you guys, this is one of those foundational black people. And you probably know him, Tariq Nasheed. He's a FBA. I talk about him because I think it's funny, because he's like, he ain't foundational black American. That's why he acting like that. No, he might be an idiot. Okay. So he pinpoint only foundational black people are the upstanding black citizens of the United States. That I think that's a false narrative. And he doesn't say it in that way, but the post that he puts up, he says it that way. And he kind of, sometimes to me, he seemed like he's kind of prejudiced. But anyway, I believe he's kind of conservative based off these last posts. He's been really giving Kamala Harris a bad time on some of his posts. And then yesterday he said, "Hey, DNC, you send your paid plantation flunkies to social media spaces to regurgitate your discrediting tactics against me and other influencers. Can you tell them not to be so sloppy and obvious? At least have them reword the things from their multiple accounts." Okay, so you have this one individual saying, "Hey, this is Tariq Nasheed and number one FBA plan." Don't know what that means. And they're saying, spread misinformation, attempt to get Trump elected. Two, if Trump won and didn't deliver, they say he doesn't have to provide a black agenda because he didn't get majority of the black vote. Three, get other black voters to stay at home. I guess this is what they're saying Tariq Nasheed does. Not for sure. And then this other guy said the same information, said the same thing, and posted the same thing yesterday. So exact same thing, verbatim. So Tariq Nasheed is like, okay, you guys, you don't have no originality. You could at least reworded the stuff to get your point across, but you didn't. And right now you're trying to insult me, but you look kind of crazy because you're saying the same thing. Anyway, this is what Kamala Harris supporters are doing. And, she's paying these people to spread misinformation about her opponent. I'm not going to say, oh, she's the worst person in America for doing that, because I know this is political. So all political opponents do these dirty politics. I don't think one political party is above the other political party when it comes to running a political campaign. All of them spread dirty stuff about each other. Whether the dirty stuff is true or not, it's up to the public to decide. But they're going to spread that information. Now, Kamala did give a statement regarding the interview. And she's saying Donald Trump's extremism and his dangerous Project 2025 agenda is a feature, not a glitch of his campaign. Why are you spreading misinformation? Is she allowed to do that? I'm assuming yes, because she's doing this. Everybody knows Project 2025 is not part of Donald Trump's campaign, but that's what she's doing, which was on a full display on those unlucky enough to listen to tonight's doing whatever that was on X. Okay. So she's trying to downplay it. The whole interview. And she's saying Trump's entire campaign is in service of people like Elon Musk and himself. Well, no, not that. That's not necessarily true, because Elon Musk, we could count how many billionaires that's on, in the United States, number one. We probably could count on two hands how many billionaires exist in the United States. But, normal, everyday working people was listening to Donald Trump and Elon Musk conversation, and they don't feel the same way you feel. You're telling me 50% or 55% of the population that agree with Donald Trump they're billionaires and they're crazy and they're weird. I just don't understand. I just don't understand the concept. Now, this reporter shouldn't be a reporter because he asked this question to KJP, Corinne Jean-Pierre, whatever her name is, about misinformation and how can we stop it. You are a reporter. Free speech comes before anything. It might be misinformation. You should be intelligent enough to decipher, hey, let me look this information up because I'm not for sure if I agree with it. And you shouldn't believe everything you hear on mainstream media, number one, or Twitter. We shouldn't do it. Come on. We have to have the wherewithal to say, oh, let me look this information up to see if it's actually true. But we can't look at it. Some of the information, we can't look it up because Google be suppressing us some of the stuff. So anyway, this is what this guy said about the interview.
Elon Musk is slated to interview Donald Trump tonight on X. I don't know if the president is going to. Feel free to say if he is or not. But I think that misinformation on Twitter is not just a campaign issue. It's a America issue. What role does the White House or the president have in sort of stopping that, or stopping the spread of that, or sort of intervening in that? Some of that was about campaign misinformation, but it's a wider thing, right?
Yeah, no, and you've heard us talk about this many times from here, about the responsibilities that social media platforms have when it comes to misinformation, disinformation. Don't have anything to read out from here about specific ways that we're working on it, but we believe that they have the responsibility. These are private companies, so we're also mindful of that too. But look, it is. I think it is incredibly important to call that out as you're doing. I just don't have any specifics on what we have been doing internally as it relates to the interviews. Not something that I'm tracking, and I'm sure the president's not tracking it either.
You have no right to silence people, even if it's misinformation. Grown people are on the internet. I think they should be silencing, or maybe if you're a parent, keep guardrails up to protect your children from stuff that's on the internet. I believe that. But you're talking about freedom of speech, one of the rights of American people. And you're a journalist saying this. Who determines what is misinformation? I just want to know who determines what is misinformation. Because if you're determining it, just like they said about COVID, wear a mask. Find out mask wasn't effective. Oh, you need to get a vaccine. Find out vaccines wasn't effective. I just saw a post, what's the guy who was promoting the vaccine? Dr. Fauci. Dr. Fauci had COVID 3 times or 4 times so far, and he had 6 vaccines. Why the hell are you still getting COVID? Why are you calling the vaccine and if it's not preventing anything? Right now, you're just doping yourself up with medicine. Medicine that you don't know the long-term effects of. So this is what I'm saying. So the government is allowed to spread misinformation. People like this guy, you're allowed to spread information, but everyday citizens are not allowed to spread misinformation. I don't think so. You took an oath and have a charge of your duty and responsibility as a journalist to seek for the truth. and spread the truth. But you're asking questions, or how can we suppress Twitter or X? And it's a privately owned company. Does that make, are we communists here? Are we in China? Crazy, crazy, crazy. So they did not like Trump and Elon's interview. They did not like that interview. You're going to hear nothing but bad things, even though it got 1 billion views. Okay. That's all I got to say about that. You guys put in chat. Let me know what you think. Bonita saying Tupac was Digital Underground before he went out on his own. Yes. Yeah, I remember him being in Digital Underground. Sheriff on YouTube, she was a big Corey Hart fan girl. I'm not for sure what you're talking about. Ted Bell saying Project 2025 is the 9th edition of the Mandate for Leadership from the Heritage Foundation. These views are not new, just new to some. Most of the suggestions are never used, but I agree with some. Yes, this is not a new book. This is the 9th edition. It's been around for some years. They're acting like Project 2025 was Donald Trump authored some of the information. Now he had some of the contributors that was on this past round served in his office. Okay, we're talking about a party, the people that believe in conservative values. Of course, if they're in leadership, they might contribute. They might contribute to this 925-page document. But what I do not agree, Tim Walz, I believe it was Tim Walz, and I said this last week, Tim Walz claimed that J.D. Vance was the architect of Project 2025. And his name is not even listed nowhere on the document. Actually, J.D. Vance, the document is probably older than J.D. Vance, if you really want to be truthful about it. You know, so this is, now that is misinformation. Who's going to control that? Who controls misinformation at the rally? Like I said, there's a fine line between, or I think it's overlap, misinformation and freedom of speech. We don't have the right to freedom of speech, like Tim Walz is saying. It's selective. It's determined about what you're saying, what your message is. So that's not the American way. That's against your constitutional rights. But you want to vote these people in. Anyway. Student of Paradise, thank you for your super chat. I believe they're going to make their debut. Now, Student of Paradise is saying, hey, Chawanne, love your channel. Question, where's Oprah and Tyler Perry and some of the other that usually publicly support the Democrat ticket? They have been rather quiet. Any ideas? I believe since Obama is quote unquote on board, I believe Oprah, maybe Tyler Perry. I'm not for sure about Tyler Perry. Maybe Tyler Perry will be endorsing Kamala on the stage at the DNC. That's if she gets the nomination. That's if she gets the nomination. I think she is not, this is another theory. She will not hold interview, debate prior to her nomination because she wants to secure it. Because if she makes a flub, just like Joe Biden did, she could possibly get the boot. And she could leave the DNC scrambling trying to find another candidate. So she's trying to keep her lips sealed so she won't make a flub, do these interviews like I said, do these scripted interviews like the rallies and stuff, and so she won't make any mistakes. That's my only personal opinion. My own personal opinion. Okay, so now we're going to go to a student of paradise. Welcome to the team. Well, welcome to the fam. You guys, welcome student of paradise to the family. Let's talk about your boy Lacey. Okay? Your boy Lacey is in trouble. He's in trouble. To me, this is crazy because they came back. They went all the way back to 2019 to pull Lacey's car. They was looking into him. Well, if your boy Keith Freeman was filing bankruptcy charges, let's look into all these people bankruptcy. I think William Moore he filed for bankruptcy too. So he might be on the chopping block if they find some discrepancy in his bankruptcy. I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, they're looking at, hey, if Keith Freeman filed bankruptcy and he lied, and we got all these people in the camp lying for Tiffany Henyard, they're all probably liars. They are all probably liars, and they're probably protecting Tiffany, but we have one up on them. This is the story from WGN News.
Community. Courtney?
Yeah, good morning to you both. A federal indictment that came down yesterday accuses Dalton's acting police chief, Louis Lacey, of bankruptcy fraud. This comes about a week after the village fired Lacey after placing him on leave. But despite getting notice of his termination, we're told he was still showing for work.
It's a great day in Dalton. Justice is being served.
Dalton residents reacting after the police department's acting chief is slapped with a 9-count federal indictment. Louis Lacey now accused of bankruptcy fraud, making false statements and lying under oath.
I'm just so happy because this man needs to be taken off the street. He does not need a gun or anything, period.
According to the 24-page indictment, Lacey has filed for bankruptcy 7 times over the last 40 years, including 2 times in the last 5. In one case dating back to 2015, Lacey is accused of largely underreporting his income and lying about being separated from his wife so he could claim she wasn't contributing to their shared expenses. All of that to allegedly avoid paying back more than $40,000 he owed in a settlement.
This is going to be a domino effect, and we got to take the rest of the trash out.
Residents rejoicing the news, investigators say, stems from an ongoing federal investigation. Lacey, now the second ally of the self-proclaimed super mayor to face federal charges of bankruptcy fraud, but his attorney calls this a witch hunt.
They're trying to find people that will shy away and cooperate with them against the mayor.
Henyard's top aide Keith Freeman, also federally charged, now cooperating with village trustees who called for an investigation against the mayor. Lacey's attorney saying he believes prosecutors are targeting people they believe they can flip, and residents say they expect to see that happen.
I think that this is a good thing because I'm sure Lacey is going to try to save himself.
Former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot recently revealing findings of an investigation she was paid by the village to conduct. While that was separate from this indictment, it laid out big allegations against Lacey.
With all due respect to Lightfoot, it was her conclusion. She's nobody.
Lightfoot was a formerly high-powered federal prosecutor before her time as Chicago's mayor. Her findings revealed Lacey is accused of being paid more than $200,000 in overtime over the last few years, despite his inability to receive overtime pay.
She's just the person that came out with a conclusion, and the village is taking it as if it was the scripture.
Residents now waiting to see what comes next for Lacey, the department, and the village.
There are some good people working for the...
Let me interject. This guy right here, I believe this is Tiffany's criminal attorney, criminal defense attorney. So that's why he's saying these things in defense of Tiffany Henyard. We know these reports were unaudited. The state probably made the accountant, they forced them to give them this information. They do not have all the information. There's going to be more stuff that they're going to reveal and more damning and criminal evidence against Tiffany Henyard. That's what's going to happen. So, of course, he's going to say anything to make his client look good because he's being paid.
See what comes next for Lacey, the department, and the village.
There are some good people working for the police department in Dalton. My wife and I have met a couple of them. And I hope the powers that be will allow one of the good ones to fill the space.
Now, Lacey's attorney says he will surrender in court and plans to plead not guilty. Each of these charges, if convicted, is punishable by up to 5 years in federal prison. In the newsroom, back to you.
Okay, so we know it's punishable up to 5 years. I do have a copy of the indictment, and it doesn't look good for Lacey. It doesn't. This indictment reads, they said on or about June the 22nd, and they named the case was filed at well, let's start right here. They were saying Lacey controlled 3 bank accounts, and he was, or actually 3 bank accounts, and he secured a mortgage loan on one of the residents where he paid household expenses from that particular bank account. And the spouse income, he put in another bank account. So he didn't report these things on his bankruptcy, all 3 bank accounts. Okay, so that's one thing. Now, when you're filing bankruptcy and you're married, your income is both of your income. You can't file bankruptcy and say, oh, this is my income and we're separate. No. And number one, and number two, he lied about being separated from his wife. You were still married. You were still living in the same home. Anyway, so they found that out. And then they're saying July 22nd of 2015 was filed. The case was filed at Cook County. Lacey seeking a judgment in amount of $88,000. This was a state case. And on February the 7th, 2017, Lacey entered into the settlement in the state case, which agreed to pay the plaintiff about $55,000. That was the settlement agreement. On or about June the 19th, 2019, plaintiff in the state case filed the motion to enforce the settlement agreement, alleging that Lacey was in default for the failure to pay $43,000. And that was the amount that was due. The circuit court set the status for the state case on August the 2nd, 2019 to address the plaintiff's motion to enforce the settlement. Now, Lacey, he's a bankruptcy, what do you want to call it? The person that files bankruptcy 7 years, he's an extreme advocate of bankruptcy, I guess. He's a bankruptcy whore. It's like he filed every 7 years, because you got to wait 7 years to file another bankruptcy. That's just the law. So on the 6.99 years, Lacey getting his paperwork together to file bankruptcy. He don't care how much money he got. He gonna file bankruptcy because he don't want to pay nobody back. I actually know people like Lacey. This is bad. This is bad. So Lacey filed a total of 7 bankruptcies cases in the United States Bankruptcy Court for the Northern District, Illinois. Now it says the Chapter 11 is provided individuals who are unable to pay their debts with the opportunity to obtain fresh financial start through the discharge of pre-existing debts. In order to initiate the 13, an individual known as the debtor was required to file bankruptcy and petition with United States Bankruptcy Court. The filing of the bankruptcy petition automatically stayed collection activity by creditors against the debtors. So that's chapter 13. So, and you got to put your income, blah, blah, blah. We already went through this. We already know what you got to do because we talked about Keith Freeman extensively on this channel. And we know he didn't file his bankruptcy incorrectly either. Okay, so during the course of the chapter 13 bankruptcy case, debtor was required to appear in meetings, also known as the 341 creditors meeting, and testify under oath. Chapter 13 debtor was required to propose a plan and reorganization of the debt, the amount of monthly income, net expenses, blah, 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 reorganization of the plan. So they consider the amount that you're bringing in versus the amount that you have to pay. And then they actually make that determination on the materials that you provide. Okay. And it's saying that Lewis Lacey devised and intended to devise a scheme to defraud, and for purpose of executing and concealing the scheme and attempting to do so, filed and caused to file the petition commencing a bankruptcy case under Chapter 11 of the United States Code. Filed documents in the bankruptcy case under Chapter 11 of the United States Code and made materially false and fraudulent representation concerning and relation to the proceeding under Title 11 at the time before and after the filing of the petition. So basically, he should have filed Chapter 13, I guess, in his last bankruptcy because I'm assuming he was still working for the village of Dalton, and he filed Chapter 11. It was part of the scheme for the purpose of fraudulently obtaining the stay of the state case in order to prevent the enforcement of the settlement agreement, fraudulently obtaining confirmation of this Chapter 13 plan of reorganization, and fraudulently obtaining a discharge of his debts. Lacey attempted to and did defraud his creditors and the Chapter 13 trustee by making false and fraudulent statements and oral statements and documents made prior to and in anticipation of the filing of Chapter 13 bankruptcy petition. Okay, so he concealed the bank accounts. And it says a part of the scheme, shortly after the court sets the status of the state case on August the 2nd of 2019, Lacey met with the bankruptcy attorney for purposes for providing information to be used in the Chapter 13 bankruptcy petition and association schedules and statement of financial affairs, falsely representing, among other things, that he was married but separated, that his spouse no longer resided with him and did not contribute to the payment of Lacey household expenses, and that he had only 2 accounts when in truth there were 3 Bank of America accounts, including the one from Chase. So, he did a lot of scheming. A lot of scheming. They're saying he lied on his employee monthly income. He lied on the monthly income, and he just lied. One thing about Tiffany Henyard and her people, they love lying and stealing. They love lying and stealing. And are we surprised by this? This document is about 24 pages. Okay, so it says it was further part of the scheme. On April the 3rd, 2020, Lacey filed and caused to be filed a Schedule EF in 2020 Lacey bankruptcy case disclosing total unsecured debts for approximately $186,000, which Lacey sought to have discharged, including the approximate $43,000 owed to the plaintiff as part of a settlement agreement in the state case. It was further part that the scheme that or on about April the 3rd, Lacey filed and caused to be filed a Schedule H in 2020, in which Lacey falsely represented that the address of the spouse was South Halstead Street in Chicago for purposes of supporting his false representation that they were separated and she was no longer at the White Oak residence. That's your boy. That's your boy. Let me get to the super chat. D Dave, thank you for the super chat. Let's thank Tiffany for her arrogance to help end the corruption in Dalton. Imagine frauding the feds for years just to have her loudmouth destroy it in 4 months for 2 scammers so far. Exactly. 2 scammers. And we probably going to find some more scammers. We're going to find some more scammers in our camp. Because they love lying and stealing and cheating. So they talked about how he didn't report the income. He said he falsely reported that his net monthly income was $600. And he knew the net monthly income was substantially in excess of $600. He misrepresented these accounts, concealed and hitting these accounts. So he ended up getting 9 counts. It says executing and concealing the above described scheme, attempting to do so, filed and caused to file a petition under Title 11 under United States Code, initiating a Chapter 13 bankruptcy case and regarding Louis A. Lacey. So the grand jury (1 through 21) of count 1 are re-alleged here. Count 3, they're talking about concealing married and separated. He said spouse didn't no longer contribute. Count 4, basically violating the code. Filing the wrong bankruptcy because you lying. Count 5, it says filing the wrong schedules and statements of financial affairs. Lacey just lying. Perjury was count 6. Count 7, another perjury charge. So I guess they took individual perjury charge on some of these, and count 8, basically a perjury charge. Every time he lied, that it was a count. So Lacey in trouble. Lacey is in trouble. Tiffany's in trouble. I wouldn't be surprised if Tiffany wouldn't be, she's gonna face some time in some indictment charges in the near future. I think they're honing in. My prediction, I said they're gonna they're gonna try to get her at the beginning of this year, and it was kind of in March when the feds came in, March and April. The feds came in and requested the information. They had to convene or testify in front of the grand jury, Thornton Township and Dalton Village. So I know they have a lot of stuff on Tiffany. It's only time, I think they're trying to get more witnesses to come forth to talk about Tiffany. To see actually, instead of hearsay, what did she, they need some tangible evidence. Even with the credit card statement. If Tiffany didn't actually hold the credit card and she let Keith Freeman and all these other people to do all these orders, she could easily blame them. You guys put it in the chat. Lexi said monthly income $600. That was his net income after his bills was paid. He was saying he was only bringing home $600 after his mortgage, lights, gas, and all blah 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 was paid. He said $600. But they didn't include his wife income because his wife, he said he was separated from his wife and they no longer live together. Did they have a Thornton Township meeting last night? I don't know. I was focusing on something else. The Elon Musk interview with Donald Trump. I'm not for sure. Last night, I'm not for sure. I have to look it up. Anyway, you guys, that's it. That's it. Tiffany going to jail. Louis Lacey, he trying to stay out of jail. He gonna be snitching. Keith Freeman going to jail. They gonna be like, Oprah, you go to jail. You go to jail. You are going to jail. Anyway, I'm just gonna be praying for Dalton. The storm is gonna get worse before it gets better. I think they just need to and I'm talking about the residents, they need to stay on the trustee's head. Just think, just because you got this preliminary report and the feds they came in, but you haven't heard, keep on staying on their head. I think they need to keep on talking about it. Okay, what's the next steps? Where are we at with this? What's the time frame? How are we going to get out this deficit? How are we going to get Tiffany out of office if she doesn't get indicted or charged before the election? How are we going to do this? You guys, if you're in Dalton, have you seen a campaign for Tiffany Henyard? Is she even running for office or she's just stepping away? Tiffany might be trying to get out of town. Tiffany, she might not last. Tiffany might be on the next train smoking. That's probably why she haven't launched a campaign. She probably visiting places. I mean, the account had $2 million in it. Where's all that money at? Where's all the money at? Where's all the money that they actually been collecting for taxes and stuff? None of that money is there. So anyway, you guys let me know what you think. Oh, side note, if you're in Minnesota, Ilhan Omar is up for her primaries. She's a terrorist. You guys need to get her out. She's a terrorist. She's anti-American and a terrorist. Her primary is today. Do your city a favor and vote her out. Okay? That's all I got to say about that. You guys, I will see you tomorrow. Have a great evening.